Hey everybody, it's Chuckie Thomas, the ADHD screenwriter. Today I'm going to tell you how to use your executive function points wisely. Hey there and welcome back to the channel. Again, I'm Chuckie Thomas, the ADHD screenwriter. Before we begin, I have to thank all of you for getting us over the 100 subscriber mark. That's amazing and kind of crazy. We did not expect this kind of response, so thank you very much. If you're checking this out for the first time, please like and subscribe and join all our other friends who are here now. And of course, comment below. I want to hear from you. Now, I mentioned executive function points in the beginning. What are those? Well, if you have executive dysfunction, you might only have a few points per day to spend. I've seen this mentioned in articles on the internet, and I thought it was very interesting and it was helpful to me. For example, I think I have like 3 points per day to spend. So that involves, let's say, going to the store, maybe having a hard day at work, and then maybe getting some writing done at the end of the day. Now, you want to spend that last point writing well. So how do you do that? That's what we're going to talk about. I've got 5 tips. Here we go. I think the first thing to remember when talking about executive function points is you're not going to get everything done at once, especially when you're talking about writing, right? So you're going to sit down and you're going to do all this stuff and you're going to spend a point of your energy for this day to do some writing. And you're expecting to do a lot. And sometimes you expect too much, don't you? Because I do. I'm thinking, I've got to get this entire script, done. I've got like 15 pages left. I could power through. When reality is, I might get a page done and then my energy runs out and then that's it. And it sucks. It's not fair because you're spending a point and it's a lot of energy in your brain and you're thinking, man, I wanted to do this. The thing to remember is that you did it. You did spend a point to write. And you sat down at your desk or in your bathtub or wherever you sit.
We're having birthday cake.
When you hear me working, you don't knock.
But it's my birthday.
You don't knock. Ever.
And you started working and you got progress. That's the thing to remember, is that you're not going to get everything done. You've got to be realistic about what you're doing during that session. And that's why it's important to break these sessions up and spend the points wisely, as I'm talking about like this, because otherwise you might get frustrated and give up. So make sure you're setting your expectations on a realistic level when you sit down every day to use those writing points. Depending on where you are in your project, it could be a little confusing or maybe even daunting to figure out what to spend this point on. I mean, you're writing a script and you know that much. But when you sit down for the day, what are you actually spending it on? And that's why I think tip number 2 has to be make sure to prioritize what's important. And only you know what's important at the time. For example, if you're writing a script and you're in the middle of the second act and you're trying to power through, it's pretty easy, right? You have to sit down, you have to get through that second act to get to the second act break. And then therefore you can get through the third act and then you have a complete script and then you can go party hard. But if you're doing other stuff, maybe you're in the editing process or something like that, you have to decide what's important there. Is it working on dialogue that day? Is it maybe you're splitting it up into chunks of paragraphs of action or something like that? Or maybe you're working on a pitch and you have to spend a point on maybe finding a list of people to pitch it to. Maybe it's writing the pitch or editing the pitch, practicing the pitch in the mirror, that kind of thing. So you wouldn't want to spend that point that day and twiddle over here on editing the script a little bit and twiddle over here on editing your log line or something. And then you've got the pitch that you have coming up is important. And you're thinking, oh no, I spent too much of this point doing this other stuff. Prioritize what's important. So that way you can hit all the high points and you have some energy left, then you can do the other stuff, but you hit all the high points first. So bouncing off of tip number 2, tip number 3 is don't overspend on a point. What I mean by this is, let's say you're in outlining mode. You don't necessarily need to figure out the backstory of the main character, figure out that great ending, and redo the midpoint or something like that. Like those are potentially three separate points for 3 separate days, especially if they're really taxing and you're just like, man, I just cannot figure this out. There's potentially you're going to overspend, and then maybe you don't write the next day, and then you don't write the next day. You know what I mean? And you know exactly what I mean, because you can feel it. And there's something about momentum.
See, boys, you gotta set the tone. Can't get into the game without them. Someone's gotta set the tone out there, boys.
Right? And you want to keep this momentum up. And sometimes you get excited about writing a thing, and maybe you're writing your novel, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna do 30 pages today. And you're excited, which is great. But then the problem is, people like us with these issues, the next day, you're like, oh, I wrote so much yesterday. How am I supposed to write anything today? And then again, you have this thought in your head, like, well, I'll just put it off for a little bit. And then a little bit becomes a lot. And then there's, maybe you accidentally abandon the entire thing. Momentum. You got to keep it up. Also, there's the problem of you write too much and you haven't outlined completely to a point, and you write too far and you don't know what's next. Oh no. I'm lost! And then the next day you're like, oh, I literally don't know what to write because I haven't outlined that yet. I mean, all of this can derail you. Keep that momentum up and don't overspend your points, and you should be good. On the other hand, don't underspend on a point. And you know exactly what I mean about this as well. I'm very guilty of this. Sometimes I'll sit down and I'll write some pages in a script or on a novel, or even write a short story that's a couple pages long, and I'll be like, well, I'm done for the day.
Mission accomplished.
And that includes like anything else. Any other responsibilities that I have, I'm like, you know what? I wrote today, doesn't matter. You can't do this. You gotta make sure that you're spending your points wisely, like the title says, and that includes underspending a point. It's not very good. Now, you're gonna have to decide what this is, right? Now, for me, I know what I'm doing that, and I know like, oh, no, I've got to do these other things. And also that doesn't include washing the dishes or whatever. It could be, okay, I wrote a page and I worked so hard already. I don't want to do any more. When you know you could do another like 2 or 3 pages or whatever it is, you know you've got that reserve inside of you. And again, a lot of this is just experience. Yeah, the more you write, the more that momentum you're going to find, both overspending and underspending. You're going to find it right in the middle. It's just experience. I also find this when I have like a table read or something, or even like one time I had a script reading out loud with actors and stuff, and I felt like a superstar. And then the next day I'm just some guy like at work just sitting there like, why is nobody showering me with praise anymore? And that can be part of it too. Like that's absolutely part of it. Like you're sowing your oats or whatever. Like, man, I'm awesome. And then all of a sudden just nobody cares again. That can lead to you overspending or underspending. It's a lot to keep in mind, I know, but again, it's a lot about experience, and you're just going to have to know yourself to know when you're underspending, and you can push yourself just a little bit more. Lastly, I feel like it's important to remember that progress is progress. You sit down, you write 3 pages, you write 1 page, you write a paragraph, you write a sentence, you delete that sentence, and then you decide to try again tomorrow. That's still progress, because it's part of the process is knowing that sentence was terrible and you're going to try again tomorrow, and then you go back the next day and you do try again tomorrow. That's progress. It's all up here in your head, and that's all part of the experience. That's why I talk about momentum so much, is that the more you keep that momentum up, you're going to eventually get to the end. You just got to keep at it. Sometimes it seems like it's never going to end, but it will. Eventually we'll get to the end. And I still remember the feeling I had the first time I completed a script and I got to that fade out. It's just, it's hard to describe. If you've never written something, I'm getting goosebumps, like thinking about it. If you've never written a feature, a novel, even a short story can get that feeling and just make you go, whoa, what a rush. This is so cool. You got to celebrate that because you are in a small percentage of people who went, I have an idea for a story. I'm going to sit down and write it. And then you did it. Instead of just talking about it and telling your friends, I got this cool idea for a story, and then you don't do it. So many people do that, but you sat down and started writing, and you should celebrate that. You got to celebrate your W's because I guarantee you no one else is going to. And in fact, I think you should spend a point and gather some friends and actually go out in public. I know it sucks. It's terrible. People with executive function disorder issues, going out in public is not usually the best thing.
The public sucks. There's a nice campaign slogan for somebody.
ADHD, the whole thing, it sucks. But gather some friends, come to your house maybe, have some drinks, and absolutely celebrate the fact that you kept up that momentum and you knew that progress is progress and you got to the end, and you should absolutely celebrate a great job doing that. So there you have it. Those are 5 tips on how to handle your executive function points that you have each day. Hopefully that helps you like it helped me when I read about it. Make sure to like and subscribe to come back and watch more videos. We've got tons more stuff. Comment below and tell me about your executive function issues. Do you have them? How do you handle it? And of course, before we go, I got to tell you, got to stop disassociating. You got to stop watching videos for a second, make some progress like we talked about, and then come back and watch all our videos. All right, see you next time. There you have it. Those are 5 tips on how... All right, this is it. Here we go. So there you have it.